Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the 16th episode of the Afghan Eye Podcast. I am Sangar Paikar.
And I'm Ahmed-Waleed Kakar. You know, Sangar, I just have to say you have a good memory because I forgot what episode we're on, but I'm glad to see that you've got it well remembered.
Yes, it's going really fast. So, I want to say on behalf of myself and, of course, Ahmed-Waleed Kakar, Eid Mubarak to all our viewers and listeners. May Allah bless you and your acts of worship and your charity.
And as we say, obviously, in Afghanistan, just to tick the box, Dakhil Ajia or Ghazia, Akhtar Mubarak, Saidetan Mubarak.
And we had 3 days of ceasefire during Eid, which is a blessing because this is the third consecutive Eid that we have had ceasefires in Afghanistan. And let's all pray that we will have lasting peace in Afghanistan soon.
Inshallah ta'ala.
We have a short administrative matters. We have been receiving donations from our viewers and listeners. We would like to thank all of you that have so far made donations. We have had many donations, one-off donations via PayPal. If you consider donating, please visit our PayPal. The link is visible in the video and it will be added in the show notes of the podcast. You can also become a patron via the website patreon.com. You can also see the link of the Patreon page on our video, and it will be on our show notes of this podcast. And from now on, you can also donate by sending us Bitcoin. So if you want to donate by sending us Bitcoin, you can contact us via all our social media pages, and we can discuss the details, inshallah. We have reached a certain level of donations that we have received. We have purchased new microphones, new broadcast arms, some cables. We have received money for an interface. So we are gradually evolving, and the quality of our podcast is also, alhamdulillah, improving, but we're not there yet. So we would like to call everyone who supports our work. If you think that our work adds any value and you want to contribute, if you want to become part of the Afghan Eye movement, please do support us in any way you can. We appreciate all the help we receive, and we are very grateful. And any support that we receive, it only encourages us to do better, to perform better, to produce better shows. So
just before you end the talk, Sangar, I also want to say, obviously, a disclaimer to those listening on the audio platforms who do not have the pleasure to look at our faces as we're talking. Those that are seeing on YouTube can see that something else has changed. You know, a couple of shows ago, we came out with microphones and improved quality, and now we're coming out with, we have our own Afghan Eye T-shirts. And speaking of donations and PayPal and Patreon and Bitcoin and all of that stuff, this is obviously just the natural materialization of the support that we have received. And now we have our own T-shirts. So once again, let's just show them that, Sangar. There we go. So the Afghan Eye Podcast T-shirts. And now...
now that you do talk about the T-shirt, did you guys know that you can order these T-shirts?
Yes, you can.
You can order them. If you order any of these T-shirts, there will be more variation and more different designs. They're all coming up soon. But the link to our Teespring page is also in the description box of our YouTube videos and in the show notes of the podcast. So if you order any of these T-shirts, we will receive a part of the amount that you pay, and we will put that money to use to improve our podcast. So this is also a way for you to support us.
And you get a T-shirt.
Last point, and you get a T-shirt. And it's not just a usual T-shirt. It's pure cotton, and it's 40% made out of eco cotton, which means it's eco-friendly, it's good for the environment,
and it's really comfortable. I'll be honest with you.
Yes.
I think it's pretty comfortable. So I mean, it's hot here in London and it's black, but I'm coping okay. So now with all of that said, today's topic is going to be, for those that aren't aware and for those that are aware, I guess, today's topic is going to be the Loya Jirga that was announced by Ashraf Ghani, President Ashraf Ghani, due to be held on the 7th of August. Now, this is a Loya Jirga, a Jirga referring to an assembly usually consisting of tribal representatives, and Loya means big or great in Pashto, so a grand assembly. And this Loya Jirga is consultative. So the Jirga itself, consultative Loya Jirga, it's there in the name by definition. It's consultative, it's ruling, or any conclusion it arrives at is not binding. Now, Sangar, for those of us who aren't aware, or those of us who are or are not Afghans, what is a Jirga and why is this important?
In order to understand the Jirga, we have to understand the society in Afghanistan from an historical perspective. The people in Afghanistan consist of all different types of ethnicities. So we have all different ethnic groups, but one of the largest ethnic groups in the region are the Pashtuns, and the Pashtuns, they have an egalitarian structure as an ethnic group. There is no aristocracy and there is no monarchy. Generally, yes, from a historic perspective. And what's important to note, we have already discussed this in a previous episode with Muazzam Beg, and that in an egalitarian society, people tend to have a different attitude towards authority. So historically, we didn't have a centralized government in the region. We didn't have a central authority, no justice system, no court system. Those things were absent in the region, and people lived according to their customs and traditions. And whenever there was a conflict between families, between tribes, between regions, they would then they would approach elders, respected elders, for a jirga. And jirga means that respected elders, people who have a very high standing in society due to their virtues as elders, as wise men, they would gather and they would sit with opposing parties, so people who are in conflict with one another, whether it's about material issues, whether it's about honor, or if somebody has committed a crime like killing someone, even things like breaking someone's tooth is a huge matter in Pashtun culture. For these matters, they would call a jirga, and the elders would decide who is at fault and who's blameworthy. And after this jirga, whatever the decision of the jirga elders is, if they decide that both parties should forgive each other and make amends, or if they would say that the person who has committed an injury upon the other needs to pay damages or whatever, the people who enter in this jirga, the conflicting parties, they're obliged, they have to accept the decision of the jirga. It's binding upon all parties involved. So this is why jirgas exist even until today, because sadly in Afghanistan we still don't have a functioning central government justice system. So people still use jirgas to resolve their problems, and it's part of our culture, and despite all of its imperfection, it is eventually part of who we are and how we deal with our problems.
I guess we could say, given that it's existed for centuries and it's the one of the very few functional institutions that commands a very high level of respect amongst all parties opposing factions. So, okay, sure. So I think that's a very good summary. So in the absence of a central government, in a somewhat anarchical society where people operate with very little government oversight, this is, I don't want to use the word secular, but this is a secular decision-making body that is assembled in times of crisis to resolve issues between opposing parties. Am I right?
Very well put, yes.
Sure. And so, obviously, we're coming to the point about... So this is something that's quite crucial for Pashtun culture. Am I correct, Sangar?
Yes, originally it is part of Pashtun culture, but since Afghanistan is a very multi-ethnic society, one aspect of Pashtun culture is that it absorbs others into its own. Everyone who is not a Pashtun, when you deal with Pashtuns, you become one of them. Like, for instance, I think we've mentioned this before in our previous podcast, is that some of the Pashtun tribes, they have only have become recently Pashtunized in recent centuries. And there is also another thing that I have witnessed myself, is that in jirgas of Pashtuns, like for instance in our tribe, the Ahmed-Waleed, they are traditionally known for organizing jirgas. When other tribes, they have issues, they call upon elders from Ahmed-Waleed to resolve their issues. And I've seen jirga of Ahmed-Waleed where they would call a non-Pashtun, a Tajik, someone from Shamali, to be one of the elders in the jirga, who would decide what should happen. So it's a very open, I don't know how to characterize it, but it's not something very exclusive to Pashtuns.
Yeah, of course.
It's very accessible. And this is also why you see that many non-Pashtuns in Afghanistan, many non-Pashtun elders are always involved in jirgas.
So we can, I guess it's also a pretty good reflection of the fact that Afghanistan is generally quite a strictly patriarchal society. So these are generally older men who decide on the different issues in their communities.
Yes, but there are cases of where women have been involved, and there are some, even today, there are some women who are involved in jirgas. Like, for instance, there was a woman in Khost, I don't know if she's alive, but she dresses up like men, and she also participates in jirgas. There were many articles about her in Western media.
Naturally.
It's, yeah. So, yeah, women do participate, but it's as you said, it's a patriarchal society. So
it's the exception to the norm.